I just always enjoyed helping people, not necessarily medically based, but I always wanted to be a helpful person and help those in need and try to make a difference in people's lives. So I didn't always know that meant being a PA, but I had an older sister who was going into nursing and she kind of helped me down that pathway. The one thing nice about being a PA is it's a lot less school than going to med school and becoming a doctor.
How's it going, Dan?
I'm good. What about yourself?
Pretty good.
Good.
So what kind of haircut are you going for today?
We'll do the...
Doing the usual?
Yeah.
So we're pretty much doing
two up at the top, halfway up.
Yeah, and then skin fade on the sides.
Skin fade on the sides. Take a good amount off the top.
Sounds good.
Hard part if you can.
Yeah, sweet. Get started here. So Dan, we're going to be kind of going into a little bit about your story professionally, but tell us a little bit about you as a person.
So I'm Dan Hawkins, born on July 4th, 1995.
Nice.
Be turning 28
True
very
American.
shortly. Yes, patriotic as it gets. I grew up down the road in Fleetwood, PA. Moved to Hamburg with my wife back in 2018, right when I graduated PA school. We've been here ever since.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So where did you study to be a PA?
So I did my 5 years total at DeSales University. It's in Center Valley, right down from Lehigh and Lehigh University. Went there right out of high school. That was 3 years of undergrad and 2 years master's program.
Dang.
Yeah. Most of that was all classroom, and then the last year was rotations, 9 of them through the Lehigh Valley and surrounding health networks.
Shoot.
Yeah.
So as a PA, you can do a lot of different things, but what did you kind of settle into?
So during my rotations, my one elective was in orthopedics, and that's when I really realized I wanted to do that. PAs were kind of meant to help take part in family practice and primary care, but everything's kind of transitioned to specialized care, and so I
cool.
played soccer in high school and growing up and liked sports, so Orthopedics has a big sport-based patient population, and
Gotcha.
now in orthopedics I work more so with the elderly population and aging adults with arthritis, and my office specializes in knee and hip replacements. So.
Nice. And so did you picture yourself when you were younger, you're like, oh, I'm going to get into this because of sports, I'm going to be like a sports guy?
No, not really, no. I just always enjoyed helping people. Not necessarily medically based, but I always wanted to be a helpful person and help those in need and, try to make a difference in people's lives. So I didn't always know that meant being a PA, but I had an older sister who was going into nursing, and she kind of helped me down that pathway. The one thing nice about being a PA is it's a lot less school than going to med school and becoming a doctor.
Oh, okay. And PA, physician's assistant?
Physician assistants, yep, sorry. You get to do almost everything a doctor does, just not on your own.
Yeah.
You have a lot of autonomy and less than half the schooling.
Wow.
Big difference.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that's cool. And tell us a little bit about kind of how that process was for you, or when did you meet your wife? Were you in school already?
I was in my last year of school.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you graduated school. Did you end up right where you're at right away?
Yep, so I was actually going to take a job in Lehigh Valley and wasn't my top choice, but it was what seemed like was going to work out, and not necessarily settling, but almost settling for that just to have some job security starting out. And then last minute I got notice that the surgeon I'm currently working for in Reading was looking for a physician assistant, and I had known the name mainly because my father had hip replacement there and had a good experience, and the doctor I worked for had such a huge reputation, so I jumped on that and interviewed, and it was a really good fit, and now the rest is history.
That's awesome. What kind of in your job do you focus on? Since you're under a surgeon, what is your part of the team?
So mainly starting from first time a patient comes in and being part of their care till the end. So I see a lot of new patients and some patients that we follow for years, and doing conservative care like injections and medicines and braces, and not always right to surgery, but helping care for patients along the whole way. So I see a ton of patients for injections in my office days, and the best thing about it is just being able to help people get rid of pain and suffering that they've been dealing with for a long time. Some people that didn't even know that they could get improvement of their pain or arthritis, whether that's with an injection or with surgery. One of the most rewarding things about it is having someone come back after you've done something for them, whether it was just an injection or if we've replaced one of their joints, and if there's genuine gratitude that you've made a difference in their life or gave them their quality of life back. That's what's makes everything worth it. All the hard work and long hours.
And so you're not working as a lot of the nurses were through some of the crazy stuff with COVID and things like that.
Thankfully we were pretty isolated from that.
How was that kind of process for you? Was it interesting being so close to that kind of part of it? How did that kind of affect you in the field?
So it affected us slightly in the beginning. Everything was shut down, so we couldn't really get any patients in the office. So we tried to transition to more of the virtual care and telemedicine that was kind of booming at that time. It's just very hard for what we do to do much over FaceTime or Zoom or a telehealth visit, because we could mainly what we were focusing on is follow-ups and post-ops, making sure people were doing okay even though we couldn't see them. But it was really hard to try to examine their knee or their hip. You have to check range of motion, or you can see swelling, you can see certain things, but it just really limited us for a couple months, and we could not do surgeries for I think about 2 months. So thankfully my employer didn't lay me off, and we just kept doing what we could till we were allowed back in person.
That is really nice. And you're a new dad, right?
Yes, yep. So that is the greatest joy in life. 4-month-old at home. It's something other than my wife that I sincerely look forward to getting home at the end of the day. But it is hard being at work, sometimes 45, 50 hours a week. But makes the weekends even better.
For sure. And is your wife, does she work or in like field, or she at home with
She's
the kid?
a teacher, but she's taking a whole year off at this time. So she'll be home with our baby till January.
That's a cool blessing, because I know a lot of people can't do that.
So
that's super cool.
Thankfully we saved up some money prior, and we're in a good place before we had him, and my salary at this time can support that for the year.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
And I know you from coming in here for haircuts.
Yeah.
But I also know you through other friends and through the Bridge Church.
Yeah,
where you
of
go to
course.
church. And how does your faith kind of affect how you do your job in the medical field?
Yeah, so I think, that's one of the biggest reasons we do what we do is we're just the physical healers. Obviously, Jesus is the ultimate healer, but, we use the skills and the compassion we were gifted with to help people end pain and suffering, and, praying before operations and praying with patients who are scared about what's about to happen, and or people that have come into the hospital with a bad fracture, and it's nice to tell them and reassure them they're going to be okay, but some people, praying with them makes all the difference.
Yeah, for sure. And so is there more than just you being a Christian in the office then?
Yep, so I think everyone in our office is pretty faith believers, and but the surgeon I work for is really big believer, and he gives all of his renowned, he's a renowned surgeon in Reading, and people that compliment him and tell him how much of a reputation he has, he's just so humble and gives all the credit to God, and for gifting him with his skills and his knowledge, and just doesn't take any credit for himself.
Yeah, and that's a pretty rare kind of thing to have, that kind of group, that to have everyone kind of on the same mindset, same page for that kind of going into a surgery. I think that I would imagine that totally changes the process. Would you say?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people that come to us have said that they heard of, obviously the reputation, but some people specifically say, I heard you're a Christian, or I heard you are a big believer and that you pray with your patients, and that just made us feel comfortable beyond everything else.
Do you ever get negative feedback for that from people?
Not necessarily negative, but some people seem to brush it off as not as an important factor in their decision or in their recovery. But I think majority of people truly appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, that's cool to have kind of everyone, like I was saying earlier, kind of having everyone kind of believing the same thing, having the same mindset going into it, that I would imagine would be a hard thing to work for if you didn't have that kind of mindset. I know some people have asked me, because I've talked about how I would like to hire some people that are Christian for my first hires at the shop here.
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, isn't that kind of being too whatever?
Discriminating.
Discriminating or stuff like that. But I feel like getting around people that have a similar vision for you is so helpful for any business, to make sure you're all on the same page, whether it's with faith or whether it's, because there's a bunch of other aspects of a business that if you're not on the same page, it's just going to be...
Yeah, you all want to mix and mend well, and...
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to work well. But I think the biggest thing is that, especially for me as a Christian, I never want people to come in here and be like, oh, I'm not going in here. He always tries to, preach at me or something like that.
Right.
I would never want to have a reputation that people don't feel comfortable because of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a place where you can, as a Christian, say, I'm going to be the hands and feet, kind of be the boots on the ground for God, and
of
say,
course.
hey, I'm going to actually read your word, read the book,
and follow it,
and actually live in a way that is honorable from how we do business to how we love people.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that makes your shop unique and so special.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, you've been coming to me pretty much since the beginning, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife said, go check out the new guy in town. And ever since then,
Yeah.
faithful customer, client.
Yes, sir. And how do you kind of balance, you're active in your church, you're active at work, and you got a kid.
Yeah, so I mean,
what's some of
I try
that
to
look like?
do it all if I can. I have not been as active as I'd like in church since the baby was born, but
It's a huge
my wife and I,
responsibility.
Angela and I, we were volunteering with the Kid Check ministry at church, so we'd help check in all the little kiddos going down for kids' church, and we did that until she had the baby. And I had done a year and a half in the choir.
Nice.
Using that gift that I only ever use in the shower and in the car, but I did enjoy singing in the choir in church. I missed out on Easter just with the newborn, but look forward to getting back into that. Just good to do as much as you can in the time that you have.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and I think it's also important to know that there's different seasons in life, and some seasons you can be super active, and so other times you need other people to help you out.
That's right.
And some people they feel like, oh, if I'm not always the person giving, I have to kind of prove my worth here.
Right.
But yeah, there's seasons where you can just be like, okay, I've got a lot going on with this baby, and I got a lot going on with trying to reshape how our family is working.
Yeah.
And we need to reach out for help.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are getting that.
Not being afraid to do that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about with your position. Obviously, it's really exciting to be able to have the financial ability to provide and to allow your situation to open up your wife's schedule and stuff like that, and be able to instead of having to go through a daycare or something else like that, allowing your wife to have the freedom to take on that big job of mothering.
Right.
What being kind of out of the picture at work during the daytime, is that a hard transition for you?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's tough. I wish I could be home and see all the smiles and the moments with the baby, and it's nice because my wife usually a couple times throughout the day will send a picture or video, and
that's fun.
It does help put a smile on my face, and it's sad not being there, but to me it's more important having my wife there, and she's the natural nurturing mother, and so if I, with my profession, can financially support that, that makes all the world of difference to me, and at least she can be home and be with him 24/7 for this first year, which is probably the most important.
Yeah.
Ideally, as we talked, it'd be nice if that could be a long-term thing, but at this point, since we are still on the younger side and have a mortgage and car payments and
all that
student loans, we start with the 1 year at home and we'll go from there. But it does, in the back of my mind, I'm missing being at home. But if what I need to do at work can keep my wife there for a year, that's worth it to me. Yeah,
that's cool. Now, how would you say that you find intentional ways to be present at home when you come home? Because I'm sure in any job, hey, you had a long day. It's hard to come home and be present. There's a lot of...
Yeah, I mean, no matter what day it is, some days I'm home by 5, some days it's after 6, which a long day and I'm tired, but I know even though my wife's not at a physical job, I know she's still tired, so I come home, I try to help with everything I can until we put the baby down for bed. So I usually get home, and before I even eat, I make sure the baby's ready for a bottle. I'll give him a bottle, or play time with him and interact with him from the moment I get home. And I'm usually the one that does bath time routine and his nighttime bottle and rock him to sleep. So whether it's just an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 hours after I get home, it's everything I can to be with him.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's super cool, because the really sad thing about kind of the way TV has portrayed dads.
Yeah.
Is that dads are just these kind of dumb characters that are kind of absent-minded from where like the family is.
Just come home from work and sit on the couch.
Sit on the couch or just do their hobbies and kind of then disappear from the picture when it has to do with the kids.
Right.
And I think it's great to see a dad like yourself and other great dads that I know really stepping up to the plate in that way to say, hey, you've been working hard all day with the baby.
Right.
And, sometimes going to a job and being able to interact with adults all day is a lot easier than staying home with a kid.
Yeah.
And so being willing to be like, hey, we've both been working all day.
Yep.
And we both can take on this responsibility together.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely teamwork every day. I mean, she does so much when I'm not there, so I try to do as much as I can when I am home, especially on the weekends. You know, if I can let her sleep in a bit and handle the baby in the morning or whatever it takes. Having a 4-month-old seems easy sometimes, but there's so much laundry and washing bottles and making bottles and all that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. So Dan, kind of finishing up your haircut here, what would you give some encouragement to someone who is kind of getting into, wanting to get into the medical field, maybe thinking about being a PA, maybe thinking about some different paths? Yeah. What would be kind of your encouragement to someone who's kind of looking towards the path of being a physician's assistant?
I think if anyone's looking into the medical field, there's a bunch of different options, and it's always evolving. So there's not one bad option. Nursing, PA, nurse practitioner, being a physician or a doctor. I think the one pro of being a physician assistant, you can be a provider in healthcare without having to go through a decade plus of schooling. You can get out there earlier and do a lot of the same stuff as a doctor or nurse practitioner. I mean, same thing as a PA pretty much, but you have a lot of flexibility in what you can do. You can make a good living and still make a difference in people's lives.
That's pretty cool. And what would be what was some of the things that you would encourage someone to, like, if they're like in school and they're kind of struggling through it? How did you kind of push through, and how was that kind of for you, that process?
Just whether it was easy or hard. I mean, you always have to have the end goal in mind. There were late nights of studying and no sleep and tons of stress and anxiety about testing and all that you had to do, but just if you keep the final result in mind, made all the hard work easier.
That's awesome, man. I'm going to take this a little closer to skin. But,
okay.
How's that looking for you?
Looks good. Looks great.
Sweet, man.
Good work, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Dan.